celebrating 30 years of phenomenal trend forecasting. Here's Gerald Celente with today's trends in the news.
Hi, this is Gerald Celente. It's Friday, September 20th, 2019, and here are some of today's trends in the news. On the market front, over there in Asia, it's mixed. Over there in Europe, it's mixed. Here in the United States, it's down. Gold, looking golden. Oil and Bitcoin, down a bit, but still over that $10,000 a coin mark. So what happened in the markets? Dow falls for second day, drops by more than 100 points after Chinese officials cut U.S. visits short. How many times are they going to go with this? Guess what? Here's the numbers. The Dow ended Friday's session 1.7% removed from its all-time high, while the S&P was 1.2% below its record mark from late July. Now, the markets keep going up. They're near record highs. If this trade war was anything, the markets wouldn't be anywhere near they are. The reason they're being readjusted is because there's a shortage of monetary methadone. They need more into the bull to keep it running. St. Louis Fed president explained in a note why he thought the Fed should have made a deeper cut this week. Quote, "There are signs that the U.S. economic growth is expected to slow in the near horizon." Now, he's wrong. The Greatest Depression has begun. It happens in stages. It doesn't happen all at once. It's already happening. It's a global slowdown, and this guy knows that they need more juice. Because the valuations in the markets, by the way, the PE ratio in the United States, let's see, it's about 26 compared with 15 for non-U.S. equities. So the PE ratio is out of line. As I've been saying, the markets are at its peak or near its peak. They could go up a little bit more, but they're going to go down a lot more, is my forecast. Oil prices were little changed on Friday, but posted their best week since June, lifted by rising military East tensions and supply concerns after an attack on the Saudi Arabia's energy industry last week. So you know what the Saudis did in response? They launched a military operation north of Yemen's port city, while the United States worked with the Middle East and European nations to build a coalition to deter Iranian threats. You know what that is.
Bullshit. Bullshit.
You got it. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. This has nothing to do with Iran, not one shred of evidence, and we have low-life politicians. Scum, slime, dirt, filth. Yes, those low-life pieces of crap that keep taking us into war, murdering innocent people all over the world, and stealing our hard-earned money to do it. Now we're blaming this on Iran. You know, those Russians hacked into the DNC. We don't need any proof. This is a conspiracy theory. This should be banned from all the social media. But hey, it's not banned on the mainstream media because those prostitutes, those media whores, men and women who bend over for their pimps who pay them to keep putting out the hatred against Iran with absolutely no evidence. And why did gold go up? Gold's going up because there's tensions in the economic markets. You heard about the Fed rate cut follows a second bid to ease overnight lending squeeze. You know, the Fed lowered rates, of course, on Wednesday, 25 basis points. Although household spending has been rising at a strong pace, business fixed investment and exports have weakened. This is what the Fed said. The New York's Fed intervention, which they did, pumping in probably almost now about $200 billion this week. The New York Fed's invention came after a severe imbalance in the so-called repo market sent the cost of borrowing cash overnight, way up, known as the repo rate, surging to an historic peak. You know what the historic peak was? 10%. 10%. And they keep pushing money in there. This has not happened since 2008, the panic of '08, the greatest recession. U.S. funding markets were shocked this week as a combination of factors reduced the amount of cash available to fund securities. U.S. money market pressure eased for the third day. The Federal Reserve intervened in U.S. money markets for the third day in a row as calls grew for central banks to open a more permanent facility to ease pressure on a pivotal part of the financial system. It's a global slowdown. They need more money to keep it running. So they're running out of monetary stimulus, monetary methadone, and now they're going to go for fiscal stimulus from governments to steal more of our money, to pretend that they're going to do something to build the economy while they're just going to enrich their friends. Hey, slow down. FedEx shares dropped 14% on sales gloom. The weakest sales growth in a decade, and alarmed investors with a gloomy assessment of the global economy. Why, they're gloom and doomers. The Greatest Depression has begun. Look at your Trends Journal. There's no other magazine like it in the world, and now it's a weekly. Or buy Time magazine. This way you can get last week's news next week. Again, tomorrow's news today, history before it happens. The S&P 500 company, FedEx, often regarded as an economic bellwether given its exposure to world trade, lost $6.2 billion of its market value as it slashed its profit outlook for the rest of the year. This is from the FedEx chairman. He said the economy, quote, continues to soften. Germany's contraction is because they're not selling as much to China, which is a huge customer of Europe. Most people don't think about that, he said. You got it. Most people don't think about anything because the mainstream news in America is garbage, and we have garbage men and garbage women that are running the show. And what else do we have here? Bank cuts benchmark rate to record low. Where was that? Oh, Brazil. Everything's going on just fine over there. Oh, what else do we have? OECD warns leading economies of low growth trap and cuts forecasts. And what else happened? Indonesia's central bank yesterday cut rates. Oh, and the Swiss National Bank held rates steady even as it slashed its growth forecast for the year. And New York supplants London as top hub. New York claimed the top spot from London last year, ending the city's 5-year stint as the premier financial capital, according to an index, blah, 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 blah. All right, they got the Brexit problems going on in London. New York's coming higher, but here's the other deal. What's going over there in Hong Kong? Things are not easing up. Gold moves out of Hong Kong to Singapore and Switzerland. Again, you're seeing gold prices keep going up. They're solidly above $1,500 an ounce. And you know my downside risk is 1,390. I said it had to break over 1,450 to move toward the 2,000 mark. And again, I do not give financial advice. I'm a trend forecaster. I see it going there. On to some international news. Mass protests are up against Algerian army's call for December elections. We've been following this since the beginning. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people are protesting in Algeria as that economy is going down, and they're tired of the military running and ruining their lives. So I mention this because when this greatest depression hits, you're going to see destabilization around the world. This is just an example of it, and it's going to escalate. The Algerian regime has made clear that it will make no concessions to popular anger and opposition. Police are heavily deployed in the capital's main area. And the big news, of course, is the Houthis' attack on the oil fields and refineries in Saudi Arabia, the largest oil refinery, by the way, in the world. Trump seeks tighter Iran sanctions as U.S. brands Saudi attack, quote, an act of war. And little Lindsay, did you come out of the closet yet? Graham, what a disgusting human being like all the rest. Not all of them, 99.999% of the repulsive-kins and the dem-o-craps. Or excuse me, dumb-o-craps. He wants more than sanctions. He said, I'm looking for a response that would be unequivocal. If they don't pay a price, meaning the Iranians, for bombing a neighbor's oil fields. Bombing a neighbor's oil fields? They didn't do it. There's no proof. But it's okay, you little slimy piece of garbage crap. Lindsey Graham, for the Saudis to slaughter 100,000 plus Yemenis, to cause the worst humanitarian crisis on earth, to put some 14 million people in poverty and hunger. That's okay with you, you little low-life piece of slimy garbage like all the rest of you out there that support this. And the U.S. has imposed crippling sanctions on Iran since abandoning the nuclear deal negotiated by President Barack Obama during his second term in office. So, Trump illegally pulled the United States out of this. This is one of the only good things that I agree with Obama that he did. The murderous Nobel piece of crap prize winner, other lying jerk off, that he did this. I'm going to close Guantanamo. First day I'm elected. By the end of the year, folks, and you know how he kept folking us, $13 million it cost us for each person in Guantanamo. $13 million. How these imbeciles, these morons, these grotesque murderers steal our money, create ruthless acts. Oh, and by the way, International Peace Day. International Peace Day tomorrow. You'll probably hardly read about it. And it's also Occupy Peace, www, Occupy Peace. If you want to put your money where your heart is, so we could change this, because we can, if we have the money behind us to push this moving forward faster, we need your help. OccupyPeace.com. Bring home the troops, close all the bases overseas, rebuild our rotted infrastructure by putting them to work, force Congress to vote to go to war, which they have not done since World War II, and have a referendum on each state ballot where we'll tell them how to vote, because these little slimy lowlives, these parasite politicians, forgot two words: public servant, capisce? We'll tell you what to do. Iran warns of war if U.S. or Saudis strike. Iran's top diplomat said a military strike by the U.S. or Saudi Arabia against the country would result in an all-out war. But then we have another piece of garbage, Pompeo. Yeah, he's getting so Pompeo that Pompeii is ready to explode. Keep eating more crap. Yeah. Anyway, quote, I think it's abundantly clear, and there's an enormous consensus in the region, that we know precisely who conducted these attacks. It was Iran. I'm not going to show you one shred of evidence, just like I didn't show you any when I accused Pompeo, using his words, Iran of sabotaging those ships in the Persian Gulf back in May and June. Oh, and a consensus in the region? Oh, by the murderous Saudis? How about the United Arab Emirates? You like those murderers better? This is a consensus of crap being spewed out of the mouth of a psychopath, sociopath, and a man that loves moida in the first degree. I didn't hear anybody in the region who doubted that for a single moment. I didn't hear anybody in the region. I didn't hear any one of the murderers, like the Saudis and the United Arab Emirates, who caused the massive destruction in Yemen. Oh, and don't forget the Libyan war, the Syrian war. Thank them too, the Arab Little League. We got to believe this crap? Oh, but hey, America haven't won a war since World War II, but you keep jerking off in public with your military might. Yeah. Pentagon weighs sending additional assets to the Middle East, stealing more of our money to slaughter more people, and you guys and girls haven't won one since WW2. The Pentagon is considering sending additional anti-missile batteries, another squadron of jet fighters, added surveillance, and they're also going to maintaining the presence of U.S. aircraft and other warships in the Middle East for the foreseeable future, the officials said. An official piece of garbage. Yeah, that's who that official is. And by the way, what happened in Saudi Arabia with the Yemeni Houthis sending in those missiles shows you what new millennium warfare is going to be. Battle groups ain't going to stop Iranian drones, missiles from blowing them out of the water, and all of those camps, those United States military bases around the area. The reason why Trump isn't attacking, locked and loaded Trump, loaded out of his mind, is because just what the Iranian foreign minister said, it will be all-out war. It will be the beginning of World War III. These are not the Syrians, they're not the Libyans, they're not the Iraqis, they're not the Afghans, they're not the Yemens. These are the Iranians, Persians, very intelligent, educated people with sophisticated weaponry. It will be all-out war. Hey, speaking of which, how about the United States, huh? Oh, yeah. How dare those Houthis hit that oil field? Oh, and you know who started that war, right? Yeah, the Crown Prince. Back in 2015, they announced it from Washington, D.C., and the Obama administration, the Trump administration, France, and the UK, and you got to put an FU in front of that UK because, hey, the sun never sets on the British Empire. We like murdering people for hundreds of years. Anyway, all provided the weapons to kill the innocent Yemenis and destroy the poorest country in the Middle East. Now the United States killed 40 civilians in a drone strike in Afghanistan. But let's not report that. It's okay for the United States to murder 40 innocent people, but don't touch those Saudi oil fields. They's our ally. Oh, they beheaded what? Only 134 people this year already. And what else do we have here? Macron's immigration hardline alarms rights groups. A push by President Emmanuel Macron of France to cut zone to harden its immigration policies to reduce the influx of foreigners has alarmed human rights groups. I'm mentioning this because the next one, Austria's nationalists set to return to power. Why? They're on the verge of power A prime example of how the anti-immigration nationalists, they use the words nationalists. The Austrians want to stay Austrians. They don't want to be other nationalities. But what nobody's talking about is the murderers that created the refugee crisis. Yeah, the Obamas, the Clintons, the Bushes, the Sarkozys, the Camerons, the Blairs, all the murderous people that destroyed these nations and sent people into their countries. But the point being, it's going to be a never-ending issue, and it's only going to worsen when the Greatest Depression hits, because there's going to be a lot of people escaping countries all over the world to find safe havens, to find jobs, to get away from violence, corruption, and poverty. And then they had the election over there in Israel, no winner yet. And we had Netanyahu, 4-time prime minister. 4 times. You have enough? Guess not, but maybe so. And then finally, most common antidepressants barely helps improve depression. Symptoms shocking, trial finds. Published in the Lancet Psychiatry, the study comes amid mounting controversy over increased use of antidepressants. This takes place, of course, in the UK. The authors said they were shocked and surprised by the results. Shocked and surprised. What a surprise. There is no allotropic drug on the market that cures a chronic degenerative disease, and this is one of them. But here are the side effects, common side effects. Nausea, increased appetite and weight gain, loss of sexual desire, and other sexual problems, such as erectile dysfunction and decreased orgasms. Yeah, and keep those handhelds in your pocket. Yeah, that'll also reduce them too. Woo! Won't go up and nothing will come out. Keep them in there. Let that radio frequency radiation do its job. Fatigue and drowsiness, insomnia, dry mouth, blurred vision, constipation. Keep taking those pharmaceutical drugs. Keep making those drug companies rich. Yeah, did a great job with opiates. Don't go natural. That's right. Make sure your children are vaccinated, because if they aren't, we're going to send them out of the school, and you got to homeschool them. And so that's the big news. Vaccine foes push for ballot on Maine. People don't want to vaccinate their children. You're not allowed to talk about this. So I won't say anything because I'll get banned. So I'm not taking a position on it. I'm not allowed to. In the democracy of the United States with freedom and justice for all. Oh, and it was the worst measles outbreak in the U.S. since 1992. How many people we have? About 325 million people. How many people got measles? Oh, under 1,000. And how many died? Well, from everything I looked up, 0. When I was a kid, school was closed down for a couple of days. Measles, then you got chicken pox, and then you got mumps. And now you got injections. As a matter of fact, why don't you inject an antidepressant drug into that new baby that just came out of mama's womb? Yeah, we have scientific evidence. It will work. This is Gerald Celente, and that's some of today's Trends in the News.